I saw the job and was like, oh, this is the job. I had never really heard of a job like the job I found here, but it seemed to be this like really interesting mix of like all of the things that I had done and all of the things that I was interested in doing moving forward.
Hey everyone, from Basil, this is On Brief, and I'm your host, Connor Murdoch. And that was Mary Mackmore, Director of Creative Integration and Operations at Away Travel, the direct-to-consumer luggage brand that has helped to transform the modern travel industry since its launch in 2015. If you don't own one yourself, you've probably seen an Away bag at an airport or in a train station or rolling down the street because they've sold millions of bags around the world and achieved unicorn status with a $1.4 billion valuation. But behind this awesome brand, there are amazing people like Mary Mackmore who help to make sure that Away stays at the forefront of the industry. But what does a director of creative integration and operations actually do? I'll let Mary Mack take it from here.
Creative ops is like the structure and the glue that holds everything together and guides the way that things are able to, be made manifest. Every day looking a little bit different is something that, even though it's challenging, I would say is something that I love about the role. And, I don't know that that's necessarily unique to Away, that creative ops have to be like fairly nimble and able to roll with the punches, appreciating and operating well with structure and with process and with to-do lists and, an understanding of the way to get from A to B, but having enough fluidity within that to kind of, pivot or have a new idea that's better and not get too precious about things. But I think it's also like very characteristic of these roles and being able to like do well in them.
I want you to take me back a little bit. Tell me where you grew up, where you went to school, what did you study in college, how did you get here?
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina originally. I went to school at UNC Chapel Hill. I actually originally was majoring in nutrition and exercise science and very quickly realized from the 500-person bio and chem freshman seminars that words are more where I want to be versus numbers, to just put it very simply. So I started to pivot into more communications classes. I studied journalism and advertising specifically in school. Going into my senior year of college, I was ready to go into the advertising world, and it was very enchanting to me. It was very sexy. There was an agency in Durham called McKinney, and it was like the dream to get an internship at this place. Everyone coveted this as a potential opportunity, and I got one that summer before my senior year of college. So have that internship. I'm really loving the vibe of the Monday through Friday, the 9 to 5, the awesome office, all of the people who are really creative and smart and cool. I saw the job and was like, oh, this is the job. I already knew that it was going to be my job when I saw it. And I had been looking for a while, updated my resume, had applied to a few things. I had never really heard of a job like the job I found here, but it seemed to be this really interesting mix of all of the things that I had done and all of the things that I was interested in doing moving forward.
Tell us about your creative briefing process at Away, how that works, who's involved, what upfront work do you do as a creative ops director to set your teams up for success and move the project along?
This process is always evolving, always. Everywhere I've ever worked, that's been the case, agency side and in-house. And I don't think that's ever going to change because ultimately the business moves really fast and the needs evolve all the time. the way that we receive those asks or the way that we kind of proactively identify those asks is always kind of changing. But I would say one thing that is pretty consistent is that creative integration and creative ops are really involved in helping to pull pieces of information together to even like craft the briefs. We are always the ones who are helping to filter information that we do receive to make sure that it's comprehensive enough for the team, that we have what we need to actually move forward on something. It kind of used to be this world where we would try really hard to have like one template and say like, you know, we have to kick a campaign off 3 months before it goes live. We have to have 2 days notice to like turn around, you know, one-off like urgent requests or whatever. And I think there are definitely organizations where that type of thing makes more sense and is also just more possible. But because the business moves pretty nimbly and is very on the pulse of performance and culture and trends and competitors and all of that, there's a lot of shifting and evolving in what we're prioritizing. They're either coming from like our brand team for like a larger campaign effort that is either for like a product launch or, you know, like an evergreen, like core support moment, something seasonal, that's gonna, you know, show up kind of all over the place in terms of channels and the media mix. And then sometimes we're receiving things that are, you know, very specifically coming from channel teams. So we've been doing a lot of work like directly with our paid social team, for example, as they've been revamping their strategy and like really starting to map out how many assets do they really need and how often, and how diverse should those things really be from each other? What should the formats be? And then us understanding more of that like directly from them has started to help, you know, us really tailor what we're creating and be more efficient with like production, really being the filter through like reconciling what is actually needed and what's being requested. Okay, we got this ask for these videos from the brand team. Do we know that the social team definitely needs those? And do they definitely need that number and on that timeline? So like really doing a lot of critical thinking around like what's being asked for over here, what's being asked for over here, how are all these things working together? Are we overproducing? Are we underproducing?
For the kind of the creative, so like the copywriter, the creative director, the video editor, especially in the age of AI, right? The question of like how much good creative matters, right? And you know, there's studies about how it does, right? But I'm curious to get your perspective on, you know, when you're planning these things, when you're kind of that glue in between, you know, those different channels, marketing, and, you know, the actual execution of it all. How important do you think creative execution and quality matters to the effectiveness of a creative campaign when it comes to like business objectives?
Yeah, I love this question. I do think it really matters. We do like look at performance and try to kind of reconcile some of these like softer metrics on the creative side. Us all understanding who we are and how we want to show up and how we want to sound is really important, and using like feedback from brand perceptions work that we do, from, you know, creative performance, from social listening, from all of those things to understand what do people want and how do people perceive us and how does that inform performance and like quality. There have definitely been times when we've been like more strapped for resources and time, and it can show, you know, like when you don't have the proper time to really develop something in the way that it deserves or needs. That doesn't mean that we can't move quickly and that we don't, and we often do, and we've gotten much better at that. And I think it's this like constant, you know, battle between quality and efficiency, and like making sure that both things are like held kind of in equal weight. I think we've gotten really good at identifying the types of projects that work best with certain types of resources. And that's something that we really evaluate, like depending on the need every single time. You know, even within the in-house team or within our sort of hybrid in-house and freelance team, we're always thinking about who is the best person or best set of people to put on this for a variety of reasons. You know, skill set, obviously, bandwidth, ways of working, rate, if it's, you know, something that's more external that we're going to have to budget separately for. For example, in Q1, we did a lot of work on creative efficiency, really being strategic about capturing more campaign imagery in studio on our e-com shoots while we're already there, so that we don't have to like do separate campaign shoots for X or X product launch. We're doing it to be creatively efficient. We're doing it to be budget efficient, but we're also doing it because we're getting more insight into what's actually needed and where. Another thing that I think we actually do a really good job of is creative diversification. We're not necessarily doing like a big production for every shoot. Sometimes we're gonna go and like work with a content creator and like do an iPhone TV spot, or sometimes we're gonna just send luggage to a photographer but get back some great assets and sort of like take that creative risk. Sometimes it is going to be a big production with a celebrity, you know? So I think we have a lot of range in that way, and we've been trying a lot of things.
When it comes to Away, what's special about Away as a brand, do you think? And what makes you all shine?
There is like this iconic thing about it. I often have conversations with people when they learn that I work for Away where they're like, oh my God, I love Away. Like they love it. I really feel that. And I think everyone here feels that. And you can feel the difference in the quality of work when people both use and believe in the product that they're working on and the company that they're working at. I think our team on the creative and marketing ops side in particular, it's a really unique team, and it's also like a very well-positioned team within the organization. I think we've worked really hard to earn a lot of respect and create a culture of collaboration with our partners, and really encourage creative to have like more of a voice in conversations. That has a lot to do with the work itself, but it also has to do with the people who are doing it and the way that we collaborate internally. I feel very proud of that because I think it's been built and rebuilt like slowly over time. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. We're going to do a little bit of a lightning round. Call out a colleague, freelancer, agencies that you've enjoyed working with in the past, and why.
Oh my gosh, so many people internally and externally, but I have to say Laura Lepre. She was the former head of creative and marketing ops. I have learned so much from her as a human and as a colleague, and I think a lot of the success that I've experienced and created for myself has been because of her encouragement and leadership. And she's just like such a tactful, smart, strategic, and creative person who I really look up to and am also close friends with, and just adore her as a human.
That's awesome. That's awesome when you can work with someone that you like as a colleague and as a friend. And she sounds awesome. She sounds great. All right. If there's one project or deliverable that you want people to see that you at Away have worked on recently, what should people check out?
So our holiday campaign last year was really awesome. I think it was a really good expression of that like asset diversity, bringing in a lot of newness, but also like really steeping ourselves in our sort of like iconicness. Lately, we've been doing a lot of work with another partner called Taste Buds. They are a smaller creative and production house based in LA. They work a lot with our organic social team, and then we've evolved our relationship with them over time to do a lot more than just that. So we've shot some campaigns with them in the last few months for some recent product launches for our translucent collection that came out, I think, in March. And then most recently, which is on the site now, are yellow and beach collections. So that work is really fun, really creative. They are another really awesome partner that we're just excited to continue working and growing with.
Early bird or night owl?
Both and neither.
One thing on your calendar every week that's just for you?
I spend my weekends in Cold Spring outside the city, getting some nature, getting some rest, cooking, being in the peace and quiet really, I think, enables me to do my job better.
That was my conversation with Mary Mac Moore. So Mary Mac has been at Away for nearly 4 years now, helping to build and rebuild the creative ops function that keeps the brand nimble, keeps it consistent, and keeps it distinctive in a crowded marketplace. What stood out to me the most about our conversation is that Mary Mac really does embrace that tension between the flexibility and structure that's required in the creative ops role. She's kind of meant for it. It's about building those systems that enable creativity rather than stifle it, but still give it the structure that's required. This has been an episode of On Brief. I'm Connor Murdoch. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.